Hi there, I'm the Brewmaster. Welcome to the Blind Eternities Tavern. As you can see, I am a pretty big fan of Secret Lair. I think it's a really interesting product, and I think it appeals to a lot of people for different reasons. Today I want to talk about some of the best Secret Lairs, some of the worst Secret Lairs, and maybe a few things we could do to make Secret Lair better, or at least a little bit different. So pull up a chair and have a seat at the table, and whether you're a button mash hack and slash controller bash, or a meeple moving mastermind of maps, mats, and minis, if you ruffle at the awful ruffle shuffle scuffle, or if you're a click clack pick attack number ball luck sack, we're all here for the same reason. I'm Jake, let's talk games. Now before we start talking about Secret Lair, I think we need to go back a bit, because most people's perception is that Secret Lair began just a handful of years ago, with a couple of these big boxes and these small sets of 4 or 5 cards. Now, I've obviously made the argument before that Commander products were kind of the first Secret Lair because they were the first products that you could buy with a set of mechanically unique cards that hadn't been printed before in Magic's history that caused a significant power jump in the formats in which they were to be applied. But a lot of Secret Lairs these days aren't actually new, mechanically unique cards. It's a lot of reprints of nickname cards in different styles, different fashions. So I think an argument could be made that the first Secret Lair products were From the Vault. So let's talk about From the Vault. From the Vault was a series of box sets that Wizards of the Coast released that contained reprints of some of Magic's most favorite cards. In each of these box sets was a wide collection of cards that met a specific theme. The first that they released was From the Vault Dragons in 2008, and it had a couple of new cards with new art, not new cards, existing cards with new art, and a foiling process that made the cards extra shiny. From there was a variety of From the Vaults, including a From the Vault Relics that had a copy of Mox Diamond in it. They saw this as an interesting way of reprinting some of those cards on the reserve list without ruffling so many feathers as they weren't in a main set. So the impact to the price would be a little bit dampened. Ultimately, this idea was shot down and they stopped doing that, and so we didn't see any more reserve list cards printed in this series. However, these two were box sets that I actually won in tournaments. They were fairly hard to get a hold of. But if you look at the back, you can see the cards that came inside, and contrary to a lot of the modern Secret Lair style products, there's a wide selection. A lot of different cards came in these sets. And looking at my From the Vault lore set, I have a number of these that are living outside of decks. That is not the case for my From the Vault Annihilation. If you look at the value of the cards, I think Annihilation hasn't held up as well as a lot of the others, but the cards are just extremely useful. But let's move away from the Vault and talk about some of our more modern products, because the spiritual successor, in my mind, to these products is ultimately Secret Lair. So now let's talk about where Secret Lair has really succeeded. I think over the years there's been a few sets that have been absolutely phenomenal. Really cool cards, really unique mechanics, awesome style. Everything that you're looking for in a small box set like this. I'm not going to get into the distribution methods too much. Secret Lair has changed a bit over the years, sometimes being a print to order, sometimes being a limited supply, and once they're gone, they're gone. I'm not going to get into which of those is better and which ones are worse. I do have some thoughts on that I'll provide at the end, but for now, I want to talk about a few Secret Lairs that stand out to me as being absolutely stellar. And then I want to talk about why I think those are really cool. The first is actually from the initial Secret Lair release, and that's an art series by Justine Jones here. And I think these 5-color commanders, this is clearly geared towards Commander, are unique in that they are somewhat inspirational. If you pick up this Secret Lair, all of a sudden you want to build these 3 decks. And what's cool is there's very little overlap between them. And so I think it's a cool way of highlighting 5-color decks in a unique way of showing very different ways to build those. With dragons and scarecrows and, yes, even slivers, I think you can make really cool gameplay experiences. And the art on this is just so unique. It's just a really special thing. And even spending $30 for 3 cards, as people balked at it at the time, I think these have really held up their value. So for the collector aspect, I think these also tick those boxes. It really is just the whole package here. But I think Secret Lairs can do a little bit more than that. One of the other Secret Lairs that I find extremely special, although I don't know that it meets all of my requirements for a perfect Secret Lair, is the Sheldon Menery Memorial Secret Lair. I think they did a really good job of showcasing his philosophies in the game, a few of the cards that he really cared about, and also including some cards that are just tremendously playable. Teferi's Protection, Ring, Soul Ring, Command Tower, and a variety of other things will see play in many different formats. And I think for the price tag on these, for everything you get in the box, it's a fairly large Secret Lair with just a ton of good stuff packed into it. But there's one Secret Lair, and it's not actually one that I got, that I think encapsulates everything right with Secret Lair. And it's going to be a weird one, but I think it's the Slimer Secret Lair. When you're buying a box set like this, in my mind, I want this to inspire a new deck, a new playstyle. It should be flexible enough to be played in a variety of different settings, whether that's Cube or Standard or Legacy or Commander, but I think it should also be playable all together. And that Slimer Secret Lair does that in such a cool way, right? You have Slimer as the Mimeoplasm. These are all nicknamed cards, which I think is an awesome way of tying that flavor into real Magic cards without having to rewrite some of the rules here. It has a copy of Slimer and Stay Puft Man as a really good Mimeoplasm target for that high power and toughness body that you can then stick abilities onto. It includes a copy of Windfall, which is just a very sought-after card in a variety of different formats and is playable all the way up into CEDH, although I know a lot of decks are moving away from that just because of the hit-or-miss nature of it. I also think Windfall is kind of a unique card that falls into this odd category of cards that get better as the gameplay gets higher, right? A Windfall at a very powerful table is an extremely good card. A Windfall at a low power table is usually everyone discards their hand and draws 4. Which is fine. It's not particularly exciting, and you're going to be giving some of your opponents a big leg up. But then it comes with a couple of other really cool cards. It's got Pernicious Deed, which is widely playable in a lot of different decks, and a cool sideboard or flex slot in certain builds of popular decks and formats. And then a couple of other just useful filler things. Altogether, I think this is the core to a really cool Slimer-centric Commander deck that you can build just right out of the box. It tells you everything you need. Good reanimator targets, good discard outlets, good ways to clear the board and manipulate what's in play and what's in graveyards. And as you build this deck, you can stick to those exact same themes with backup copies of those cards. And you're off to the races. I think that Secret Lairs that follow that formula are just generally really good to put out there. But a few Secret Lairs in the last few years haven't really done that, haven't inspired me in the same way, haven't really ticked those boxes for what I consider to be a good Secret Lair product. So now, let's talk about the not so good. And I'll admit some of my opinions on these Secret Lairs might be shaded a little bit with the limited supply that made them fairly difficult to get on launch. The first one is the SpongeBob Secret Lair. I think it's a fun collection of cards, but none of them really work together in a good way. I have them thrown into a SpongeBob Universes Beyond Joda deck but it's basically a meme. And I recognize that that is kind of the point of the SpongeBob Secret Lairs, and it's cool to be able to dunk on your opponents with some of these goofy cards, but just as a Magic the Gathering product, I'm not opposed to it being Universes Beyond, but this feels very out of character for the game and something that I don't know that I'd want to see too much of moving forward. The other piece that really stands out to me is the Monty Python Secret Lair. And this just, it's an odd experience. It had some really good cards in it. Value-wise, this was absolutely a slam dunk. But mechanically, the cards don't work particularly well together. In the story, I don't know that I would necessarily consider Belvedere's Scales a good Ashnod's Altar. Just the way that those cards work together, the mechanics don't really tie to the lore there. There is no overarching commander. I would have loved to have seen a Kinrith nicknamed as a card that you could run all of these cards in, but you're mixing up a bunch of different archetypes and styles, and so I have a lot of cards just floating out here that I don't really have a use for, and only a handful of them really made their way into decks in a meaningful way. So as collector's pieces, they're cool. I love seeing some of these weirder IPs that can fit pretty cleanly into Magic. None of the artwork or styles on these things, except maybe the Beast of Arg, could not exist in Magic or in Eldraine or some of these more fairy tale-esque settings. But it's a weird one. It fits a weird spot for me, Secret Lair-wise. I don't know that this is the type of thing that I'd want to see too much of. And then we have a few other products that irk me in other ways. This is the Lil Geary Secret Lair that they released at Magic 30. And I think it's a good selection of cards. It's got some kind of unique art. It's pretty fun, but it's only 4 cards. It's fairly expensive, and it's just not really something that strikes me as, like I've been saying, an inspirational piece. This isn't something that makes me want to play Magic or build more Magic. It feels more like a speculation item, and I really don't think that I want to see more Secret Lair leaning into that speculation side of things. The last thing that I'll point out with some of these Secret Lairs, it's frustrating to me when they release mechanically unique cards in Secret Lair. And I know this goes all the way back to the Walking Dead Secret Lair, and there's been a bunch since that have been extremely popular. But with the Marvel Secret Lairs and with the Sonic Secret Lairs and the Deadpool Secret Lair, having some of these headliners be mechanically unique cards, you cut off a lot of access to those cards from the broader player base. It's funny to me to look at different Universes Beyond cards and sort them by playability, because a lot of those cards that are extremely powerful and I would think extremely popular are way down the list just because people don't have access to them. And I think it would be cool to see better access to those cards. And while some of the Universes Beyond product has made its way to Universes Within, with real Magic versions of those characters, it still doesn't feel like a part of Magic. This feels like a weird nod that some people might have access to, as just an effort to bring the price down on the cards that were artificially restricted in their supply. Now don't get me wrong, Secret Lair has definitely found their target audience. And if the recent releases are any indication, people are excited anytime a new Secret Lair comes out. My hope is that the majority of people buying these cards are people that are interested in the cards rather than people that are looking to hold on to them for a few months and then sell them for a profit. But I think that's going to be the case with every collectible product, regardless of how many you print. I think there's a lot of Secret Lairs that were made print to order that still saw significant increases in the value of the cards inside over time, regardless of how limited that initial supply was. So let's talk upgrades. What can we do to make Secret Lair just a little bit better? So now let's talk about ways that we can make Secret Lair just a little bit better. And I'm going to talk about this while I open the Secret Lair for the partnership between Wizards of the Coast and NALAC. I think that the packaging and the style and everything that goes into these Secret Lairs is just a labor of love. It's really cool seeing the style with the chocolate being thrown across the back of the packaging and just the individual artwork inside. I feel like a lot of love goes into the way that these are designed, but it does seem like every single Secret Lair is built to be something of a love letter to Commander. And with many of these, even the artist-forward Secret Lairs are designed with that format in mind. Even in this Secret Lair, there is a legendary creature that almost plays the entire set of cards. You can fit pretty much all of these into Xenagos and have it work really well. Obviously, Expressive Iteration is one of the cards that doesn't, but this does check off a lot of my boxes for an extremely playable commander, a bunch of cards that support that, and then also a couple of cards like Sylvan Library that are flexible enough to go into a lot of these different formats, a lot of these different decks, and just be a fairly powerful card. Along with Lightning Greaves and Soul Ring and a couple of different tokens to Balt's Trickery, it seems like almost every card in this set is just a slam dunk. And the art is just stunning. I love the way that the nicknames really exemplify the style and the art and some of the cultural heritage in these cards. It's a really cool way to showcase that Secret Lair aspect, and I would love to see more of this. I think it would be really fun to see a Secret Lair that was built around some of the stories of Magic, right? Having that Secret Lair that is the Weatherlight Saga. Having a Secret Lair that ties in all of the different planeswalkers in a unique way. Have a Gatewatch Secret Lair. Have several that showcase individual planeswalkers, like the signature spellbooks. I really like the Jaya Secret Lair that they did, but again, all of this goes back to a bunch of singleton cards that are expressly focused on supporting the Commander format. What if we take a step back and look at some of the other formats that we want to support? What if we want to have more standard focused Secret Lairs? I recognize that some of these might take a little while to design and template and get all the artwork and everything put together for, so maybe we extend that a little bit further back. And we can look at Pioneer, or Pauper, or Modern, or even Legacy. Make Secret Lairs that support those formats. How cool would it be to open a Secret Lair that includes a playset of Dark Rituals, a playset of Duresses, a playset of Thoughtseize in one box? 12 cards, you get a broad selection. You can have the artwork be the same on each of those 3 cards, just 4 times over, but having an out-of-the-box playable set of cards specific to a format, I think would be really cool. And I think a lot of people would be interested in that. And if you did garner that interest, I think you'd see an uptick in the people that want to play those formats. I think it would be cool to have Secret Lairs serve other purposes as well. We've seen a few Secret Lairs with basic lands, but maybe some non-basic sets. I recognize that fetches and shocks are apparently off the table, but having some really nice playset-focused Secret Lairs that give you that instant 4 of a kind, I think would be really nice to see. The other change that I would like to make to Secret Lair, I already hinted at a little bit earlier in the video, but changing the distribution model for Secret Lairs that include mechanically unique cards. If this is the only way to get access to that Deadpool card, having them be print to order, I think, is a must. Otherwise, you are artificially gatekeeping certain commanders, certain playable cards, by locking them behind a limited supply. And I think that's really disappointing for the people that really like those characters or really like those mechanics. At the very least, you should make this an opportunity to print some of those universes within cards print to order. Then if you're just looking for the mechanics and you missed the boat on that very limited supply of Sonic commanders, you could pick up the unlimited supply, not Sonic commanders that are universes within copies of those mechanically identical cards. And then I think you could even flex some of the other aspects of Magic the Gathering, other characters from throughout Magic's history that don't expressly exist within the scope of the main game. Reprint the entire Sonic Secret Lair using the different legends from Unstable. I think you could really easily fit Phoebe, Head of Sneak, and Dr. Boom into those different roles as Dr. Eggman and one of the other commanders inversely. I think it would be cool to see some of those uncards now playable in regular Commander, in regular Magic, and bring some of those Secret Lair mechanically unique cards to a broader audience. Alternatively, I know the packaging has slimmed down, but we haven't seen a change in the price. I don't know why we don't see more Secret Lairs that have a handful of cards. I think it would be cool to go back to the days of From the Vault series of having 12 or 15 cards in a box. But of course, Wizards of the Coast is trying new things. And I know there's a lot of great ideas and a lot of new Secret Lairs that are coming down the pipeline. But your opinion might be different. You might not care for the direct-to-consumer sale of these individual cards. This departure from the random aspects of booster pack opening that has made Magic such a long-lived game. If you do have strong opinions on this, if you do have other ideas or alternatives that you'd like to see in Secret Lair, I'd love to hear about them. So please, leave a comment down below. I'd love to chat. And either way, it's been really nice talking to you.